Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
Kick.
Think about it. 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 Think about it.
Well, good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. We're here this morning for our Administrative Matters meeting, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome, everyone. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and with me are my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally and Commissioner John Kafalis. From the clerk's office, helping us with record keeping this morning is Deirdre O'Neill. We have our county manager, Lorenda Volker, Tom Clayton from Public Affairs, and Sarah Martin from the Commissioner's Office. So welcome, everyone. We'll begin, as we always do, with public comment. We have a couple people officially signed up, and then we'll bring it out to the audience to see if anybody else would like to give public comment. But the first person on the list is Connor Duffy. Welcome, Connor. We'll have you introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. My name is Connor Duffy. I live in the Timnath area, and today I'm just here to speak on the sales and use tax and my support for it. In general, I think it's a really good idea to go forward with this because we need to have an increase in safety on the roads. In the Timnath area and the peripheral, it's really good for our students going to school. We've got a lot of kids on buses starting this week, and I think that it's something in the long term that is a good investment for our county. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connor. The next speaker is Ann Hutchinson. So, Ann, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ann Hutchison, President and CEO of the Fort Collins Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm joining you today to strongly endorse the referral of a 0.15% sales and use tax for transportation to the 2025 ballot. The Chamber has identified an ongoing goal for us of finishing up the widening of North I-25, but also improving key regional feeder roads. And certainly the resources available in order to achieve that goal are very, very small. And we believe that we need to find those dollars, and this is a perfect pathway to do that. We were a champion of a similar package a year ago and remain fully committed to creating resources in order to create a well-maintained regional transportation system that helps to support a vibrant economy. Just as every business must consider how best to deploy limited resources to achieve optimal long-term results, residents of Larimer County will be encouraged to invest in the vitality of their region. We've been a partner alongside your staff in understanding the challenges that face the county, but also identifying the opportunity that is right in front of us. And we strongly support and endorse the referral of the 0.15% sales tax, which for those listening is only 15 cents on a $100 purchase in order to add to the economic vitality of our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ann. Any other speakers this morning? Anyone else? Oh, Bill, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Nice to see you in person and not on the screen this morning. Bill Becker, Loveland Chamber of Commerce, and I share Ann's support of this tax initiative. We were, as Ann mentioned, very supportive and involved in the campaign last time, and we intend to do the same, letting everybody know the value of this. The themes of safety and congestion we hear from many of our chamber members as well as the general public. And you've probably seen various reports, some in print media, others on TV and images of YouTube, of the deteriorating roads in rural Colorado in particular. And it's a serious situation. And the fact that we can make a bit of a dent in this with this effort is something we are very supportive of. We've spoken of the economic vitality component, and our employers need their employees to be able to travel on safe roads that are well maintained. Last year, we had thought that the matching grant component would be a value in this effort. realizing that there's, as you know, some federal changes. Now, still, this would provide some funds, and we've discovered in all our work with I-25 and other projects that the matching grant component and having funds that say we're in this game and we can continue. There are those that tend to be against this, but I fondly refer to them as the cave people. Do you know who the cave people are? Citizens against virtually everything. You can use that if you want, but we find that this is a sensible approach, and we strongly endorse and support this, and we'll get behind the county staff in all that we can do to make this pass. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Is there anyone else in the audience who wanted to speak on this or any other topic? All right, I don't see any hands raised. Sarah, was there anyone who wanted to call in with comments?
No, Commissioner.
Okay, then we'll close public comment. We'll bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just thank everyone for coming today and participating in public comment. It's really important for folks to exercise their right to engage with their elected, especially their First Amendment rights to express their viewpoints. Thank you, sir, for being here today. Also, just wanted to share my appreciation with both Loveland and Fort Collins chambers, showing their support of this important measure because it impacts everyone across the county, and we know small business and commerce especially. And so I want to thank them for their kind comments and for Mr. Duffy coming today. And we're thankful for their support last year and this year. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kafalis, any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. I'll just echo what Commissioner Shattuck McNally said. Put a bit of an exclamation point on it. Certainly appreciate very much your informed input on this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner. And yeah, obviously we'll be talking about this later as a discussion item on our agenda, but we really appreciate you coming forward this morning to speak in favor of the resolution that we'll be considering. And it's great to have partners in doing this work. And thank you very much, Anne, for saying that 15 cents on $100 is what we're talking about. So appreciate that. All right, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is approval of the minutes. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, I'll ask you to make that motion, please.
Certainly, Madam Chair. I move to approve the minutes for the week of August 4th, 2025, sorry.
No, that's all right. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. We will move on to our upcoming schedule review with Sarah.
This is the Commissioner's schedule for August 18th through the 23rd, 2025. On Monday, August 18th, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., Commissioner Stevens may participate in the virtual statewide Transportation Advisory Committee and Transportation Commissioner Coordination Meeting. From 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., Commissioners may attend the elected officials' lunch at the Rio Grande Mexican Restaurant at 143 West Mountain Avenue in Fort Collins. From 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., there will be a work session with Leslie Ellis, Director of Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources in the Commissioners' Conference Room on the second floor. From 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may attend the Upper Front Range Transportation Planning Region Executive Committee meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it will be at the Weld County Administrative Building at 1150 O Street in Greeley or virtually via Microsoft Teams. From 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual Suicide Fatality Review Board. On Tuesday, August 19th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., there will be an Administrative Matters meeting in the hearing room on the first floor. From 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m., there will be administrative direction to county management in the Sprague Lake Conference Room on the second floor. From 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., Commissioners may attend the Visit Fort Collins Summer Mixer at the Colorado State University Annual Flower Trial Gardens at 1401 Remington Street in Fort Collins. On Wednesday, August 20th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual Big Thompson Watershed Health Partners meeting. From 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., the Commissioners will convene as the Board of Social Services in the Commissioners' Conference Room on the second floor. On Thursday, August 21st, from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., Commissioner Kafalis may attend the Housing Catalyst Board of Commissioners meeting. It's a hybrid meeting, In person, it will be at 1715 West Mountain Avenue in Fort Collins, or virtually via boardable video. From 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual Colorado Fire Commission prescribed fire subcommittee meeting. From 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., there will be Common Grounds with Commissioner Shattuck McNally. Topic and location will be announced prior to the meeting. From 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., Commissioner Cavallis may participate in the virtual Colorado Department of Early Childhood and Colorado Counties, Inc. check-in meeting. From 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may participate in the virtual North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization Finance Committee meeting. From 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may attend the Land Stewardship Advisory Board meeting at the Horsetooth Area Information Center at 4200 West County Road 38E in Fort Collins. From 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., Commissioner Cavallis will attend the Board of Health meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it will be at 1525 Blue Spruce Drive in Fort Collins, or virtually via Zoom. On Friday, August 22nd, from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual State Forest Health Council Legislative Committee meeting. From 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., commissioners may participate in the virtual Counties and Commissioners Acting Together member check-in. From 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., Commissioner Cavallis may attend the UC Health Aspen Club pop-up event at the Red Feather Lakes Food Pantry at 23947 West County Road 74E in Red Feather Lakes. From 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., the commissioners may attend the Driving Under the Influence Recovery Court 15th Anniversary Celebration at the Justice Center at 201 LaPorte Avenue in Fort Collins. On Saturday, August 23rd, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally will host story time at the Larimer County Farmers Market at 200 West Oak Street in Fort Collins.
Thank you, Sarah. Any corrections or additions to the calendar? Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Yeah, thank you. Sarah, as always, thanks to Melissa and you and Brenda for wrangling our schedules. I'm also going to be trying to jump on. They've moved my Forest Health Council Leveraging Resources Committee, which I'm not chairing like I do the legislative, but I will be on that, saying that for part of that, because they're moving it, because we have a new chair. And then on Wednesday, and that would be from noon to 12:30, but I'll still come to the lunch opportunity. I'm also having a meeting with the insurance commissioner for the state of Colorado about wildfire mitigation and homeowners insurance at 4:00 virtually. And I'm not sure who might be coming with me to that meeting, but we'll be having those discussions virtually on the 21st, and looking to plan some other items in the future. On 21st, I also, as I shared, I was appointed to the governor appointed me to the state Emergency Medical and Trauma Services Board, Advisory Board, and there's a meeting that morning from 8 to 9 virtually for the grant improvement review board. Going to try at least come for part of that. It's something I'm going to have to squeeze in, and I have some other meetings that day as well that I don't need to have listed. The Common Grounds with the county commissioner will probably be at Kind Coffee at noon, and I'm sure I'll have the mayor there, and the topic will be open. There's a lot of things people want to talk about, so probably will listen, just do a lot of listening, and that will be at Kind Coffee, an open topic. And then on the 22nd, actually, I think that was it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sarah, the only thing I need to add is on Thursday, from 5 to 7:30 p.m., I will be attending the League of Women Voters Women's Equality Day. I'm actually receiving an award on that day, and that's at Sweetheart Winery.
I'm sorry, I forgot that I'm going to that too. And congratulations on your award, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate your work on that. We will move on to our next agenda item, which is our consent agenda, and I'll read through those items. Our first consent agenda item is an abatement for refund of taxes. There's more information on that online, just one abatement this week. We have two agreements. The first one is a mutual aid agreement regarding Routt County Sheriff Office and Larimer County Sheriff Office. And this is just an agreement to provide mutual aid law enforcement services to Routt County. The second item is also an agreement with Routt County, and this is for a specific event to provide mutual aid law enforcement services to Routt County during the Pagan Motorcycle Gang event from August 14th through 17th of this year. We have one letter of support, which is a technical support request, requesting technical advice and assistance from the Trust for Public Lands and the Nature Conservancy regarding public studies and surveys related to financing land conservation, nature-based access, and watershed health efforts in Larimer County. We have two liquor licenses. One is a special event liquor permit for the Breaking Bread Around the World bread and soup pairing event at the Global Village Museum of Arts and Cultures. This is a special event liquor permit, 6%. And then we have another one, a special event liquor permit, excuse me, for the Fall Equinox Marathon, Half Marathon, and 5-mile green events. Excuse me. And that's also for a special event liquor permit, 6%. So if you do a marathon, half marathon, or 5-mile event, you will likely get beer at the end, it looks like. So added incentive. For miscellaneous items, we have a request for legal action. This is due to recurring code violations across multiple adjacent properties under common ownership. Addressing the matter through a single district court case that includes all the properties. We have a second request for legal action for code compliance, case number 23 CCC 0064. In this case, the property owner will not take the required steps to bring their property into compliance. Violations include illegal additions and improvements made to the property, excuse me, in the setbacks without requiring planning approval, building permits, and flood board approval. And then we have a request for approval to enter upon lands to do weed mitigation. Again, more information is available online on these items. And finally, we have two resolutions. The first one is an updated Larimer County Sheriff's Office records fee schedule. So this will update record fees for core records. There's a changes of notes from a previous resolution which removed language regarding fees waived for the media, increased fees for audio and video recordings from $7.50 for 15 minutes to $10 for 15 minutes. 911 calls changed from $30 a call to $30 an incident, and removed per page fee for medical records. And then a resolution approving the forced certification to the Larimer County Treasurer of zoning violation penalties as special assessment regarding a property in the Loveland area. The resolution certifies additional zoning violation penalties to the treasurer as a special assessment on the property pursuant to Colorado Revised Statutes 3028-124.5. And that is it for the consent agenda. Would either commissioner want to remove anything from the consent agenda? I do not wish to remove anything either. Then Commissioner Kafalis, I'll have you make the motion on this item, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I move to approve the consent agenda for August 12th, 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion on any of these items? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. We will move on to the meat of the meeting. I don't believe we have any commissioners' guests. Is that correct? No guests? You're all our guests. We welcome you, but no specific guests this morning. So we will move on to our first discussion item, which is providing an update to the Board of County Commissioners on current fire danger conditions in Larimer County. And we welcome Chief Justin Weitzel.
Good morning, Commissioners and Lorinda. It's good to see you all again. It's been a little bit, probably since last year since I was here. So the sheriff wasn't able to make it. He apologizes. He's a little bit tied up at the moment, so I am here in his place to give you an update on the current fire restrictions and kind of where we're at with those, so you have a little bit more information. As most people probably know, Larimer County did go into restrictions on Friday of last week, and so if we jump to the next slide, just kind of the reasons behind why we enacted the fire restrictions, and you should have the same information in front of you. But obviously, as you all are aware, we've recently been experiencing above normal temperatures and windy and dry conditions, and I'll get into kind of the future of that looking out till October here in a few minutes. But obviously, above 100-degree temperatures a little bit. And then the other things that we look at, the energy release component, which is the amount of energy coming off a fire. And that really tells us if we're going to be able to address a new start with initial attack resources and how successful we're going to be. So that number is one that we look at, and also the 1,000-hour fuel moistures, which are the 4-inch or bigger fuels that are on the ground, logs. So anything that's bigger than 4 inches, and that really is looking at the time lag for fuel moisture or moisture to either absorb or evaporate out of a 4-inch diameter piece. So it takes about 1,000 hours. So obviously with the dry, windy days, we've lost a lot of the moisture in the ground, and that kind of gives us a metric of how easy it is going to be able to mop up or get line around once we knock it down. So those are obviously right at the threshold of recommending restrictions, and that's kind of where they've been hovering. The other thing that is really big right now in Colorado is there's several fires on the western slope that would limit the amount of resources we were able to get here on the Front Range. So that's a big indicator of recommending restrictions, just the amount of resources, while we do have additional resources that the Forest Service has brought into the Front Range. Getting large air tankers or aircraft is going to be a little bit of a struggle. So just with the Lee fire that they have on the west slope over in Rio Blanco, so that's going to be limiting what we can get if we do get a large fire. Obviously, the restrictions we put in place are above 6,000 feet. Larimer County went into zone restrictions, which I'll show here in a minute. And then the other thing is, obviously, with below 6,000, we're still looking at faster response times, a lot more resources with like Loveland Fire Rescue and Pure Fire Authority, Wellington. We have a lot more resources that can respond at the lower elevations and jump on something before it gets big. And then not all our indices that we look at are in that threshold. So we'll jump to the next slide here. And these are the zoned restrictions that we talked about. And at the very end, I'll give everybody the website that they can go to see the interactive map. But these zones, you can see the yellow depicts where Larimer County is in restrictions. It only applies to unincorporated Larimer County, doesn't apply to the federal lands. I do believe the Forest Service and Boulder County will be going into restrictions today, was the last I heard. So I still believe that's what they will be doing. I haven't got confirmation on that, but they will be going in as well today. So just so everybody knows, and again, I'll share that map at the end where to look at that information. If we go to the next slide, the current drought conditions, as you all are aware probably, Larimer County is abnormally dry for a majority of the county. There's a couple little holes in the middle that are normal. And then as you get up into the higher elevations, the drought gets worse. Obviously, the drought on the west slope has been significant and contributing significantly to the fires that they have over there. That's bleeding over into Larimer County a good bit. The next slide shows you the 7-day rainfall, because I'm sure there's people that assume that we got rain across Larimer County the other night when we got significant rain here in Fort Collins and down in Loveland. But as you can see from the map, a lot of our rain gauges up in the higher elevations did not get significant rain or any rain for that matter. When you talk at 0.09 tenths of an inch or hundredths of an inch, it doesn't really help much. So a struggle there. The next slide, we start looking at the outlooks. So these are the temperature outlooks for the 30-day. The one on the left is the 30-day outlook. And again, everything's pointing to above normal temps predicted. And then also when we start looking out extended forecast, August through October, continuing to be hot and dry, no relief in sight is what's predicted by the GIF. The weather pattern shifts, but right now that's what they're predicting is the above normal temps. The next slide shows the precipitation. So similar, the one on the left is the 30-day precipitation. And unfortunately, Colorado and New Mexico are suffering the brunt of below normal precipitation. So obviously that will contribute to increased fire danger, continued increased fire danger. And if we look at the long-term outlook, August through October, continued below normal for Colorado. So obviously with the way the weather pattern has set up, there is not a lot of hopes for precipitation at the moment. I guess we got all the waters earlier in the year. So the next slide, just talking about the fire restrictions. Just wanted to reiterate that these apply to uncontained open fires, fireworks, combustible devices, welding torches in developed areas. What is allowed are gas-fueled fires, fires in developed campgrounds, indoor fireplaces, and permanent outdoor fireplaces. It's not a full ban. And then also these are effective through September 2nd, which obviously before September 2nd, the Sheriff's Office will be coordinating with you all to determine whether we want to stay in restrictions, push it to a ban, or take off any restrictions. So we'll be back in touch before that time. The next slide is the website to go to get the information about the fire danger. If you open that page, it takes you to the homepage of the Aegis website that we created. If you click on the fire danger, it'll show you the map, and you can actually search your address or a campground, common area in that map, and it'll show you whether you're in restrictions or not. So hopefully it's interactive and pretty easy to use for our community and public members. And that was all I had, and I was going to open it up for any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Chief Weitzel. Commissioner Cavalis and then Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief Weitzel. I have two questions. The first one is regarding the indices that we use to make a determination about fire restrictions, etc. Do we ever take into consideration an area, for example, like the Rewa Wilderness, where there's a lot of fuel on the ground, dead wood, that's hard to remove? Do we ever take that into consideration as adding to the wildfire danger or the risk?
We don't. That's not one of the metrics we use. It's hard to quantify what that would be. We do look at the 10-year history of extreme wildfires like Cameron Peak, High Park, Picnic Rock, some of those, and see what the conditions are and apply it to those same areas to make sure that when we look at the weather trend going 14 days out, that's all taken into consideration as that historical reference, and making sure we're taking into consideration on that. As far as the fuel loading, it's not one of our metrics we look at, but it's definitely one of those things that plays into when we do get a fire, like how we're going to address it.
Great. Thank you. My second question, and that is, this morning I read a news story that was suggesting concerns nationally regarding loss of staff, U.S. Forest Service, and wildland firefighters. Is that something that we ought to be concerned about in Colorado? I thought there were some suggestions that the Lee Fire Maybe there's not enough resources on the ground or wildland firefighters. Any thoughts that you care to share on that? Or
Yeah, sure. There's two things with that. I guess idea or thought. The first one, no matter how many firefighters you put in front of the leaf fire, you're not going to stop a fire with that much energy behind it. Similar to the Cameron Peak, we could have had 5,000 firefighters and we wouldn't have been able to stop it, especially on the wind-driven, hot and dry days. So that would not really help. The second part to that is my interaction with the Forest Service, because I've read similar articles, but my discussions and interactions with the Forest Service, I have not heard of any lack of being able to hire or reduced personnel because of any issues. There are some thoughts that those firefighters are doing other things, mowing the lawn and doing, cleaning out restrooms and things that maybe they hadn't done in the past because the other staff has been reduced. But I have not, from even around the country with the smoke jumpers and hotshot crews, they are, as far as I'm aware, and everybody I've talked to, they're fully staffed firefighter programs. So,
thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Justin, for being here today, and we thank the sheriff and your team for working with us. And I know it's our first year of trying to implement and see how these zone restrictions are going forward. So, and I want to thank you for your engagement on that. Also, want to thank our IT team and all the folks that worked with us, including Josh Roberts and Mark Faffinger and everyone that, as we talked about this in 2021, we talked about what we needed, and it's great to see that tool come to fruition. And it's a very fantastic tool, I think, and I'm really thrilled that we were able to have that now and be able to use it. And I just want to thank the IT and all the folks that work together, and thank you for also your leadership in that. I think it's a really great thing that we have now. I had the unfortunate but opportunity to DI was shut down, so I had to fly over to Montrose with a big 737 and flew over Wyoming and the northwest part of Colorado and got to see all those fires from very high altitude. And then when we landed and were there for a while, seeing those plumes of smoke, which was very disheartening to see from such a high level. I couldn't get all the good pictures I'd like to have, but it was very troubling and perplexing and disheartening to see the Lee fire and the Elk fire and all of those and the other ones that were happening. There's lots of little fires all over there. And as I was doing that and also trying to respond and work, can't just sit still, have to look at emails. I get a lot of feedback from people in Carter Lake who are not quite 6,000 feet, but 5,800. And very upset that they were not included in the restrictions and very alarmed and worried because there's a lot of visitors and camping. And I'm looking at the map and I see that we're not quite there. I'm sure right close to there is 6,000 feet or above. Have we considered maybe including some of these areas around Carter Lake that are so close to that 6,000 feet and maybe expanding that? I know I'm hearing from a lot of residents in those areas. And what are your thoughts about maybe just widening that map just a little, especially if Boulder County to the south is going into restrictions?
yeah, and I haven't seen Boulder County's restrictions if they're doing I think they were going to do west of, I think it's Highway 7 that they use. So again, that would kind of align with ours a little bit, but just a little bit of explanation of our zones and the difficulty that we had trying to figure out which zones to use. And the hard part is you can always move boundaries to accommodate something, but the zones that we have identified are an exact match to the National Weather Service. So if a red flag gets issued, it matches identically with our zones. And that was a lot of the thought behind it, because if we extend a little bit into Carter Lake area, that zone, and bump it out a little bit, then it won't align with a red flag warning, which gets even more confusing for the sheriff's office and firefighters enforcing it. and then even more confusing for the public, and it's really going to be hard to message. And we did have those discussions with a lot of fire departments wanting it to align with their boundaries. So that was the best we could come up with. That definitely, we're keeping an eye on the conditions below 6,000 feet. And if we determine that that it needs to go in restrictions as well, the sheriff will be back and having discussions with you all to push that in. It's not that it won't go into restrictions right now. We haven't determined that it needs to go in, but that is something we're going to continue to monitor.
Great. I'm not, and I'm not suggesting we change your zoning. I'm just thought, for this restriction, seeing that a lot of folks are probably feeling a lot of anxiety seeing how the leaf fire is progressing, unfortunately. I've got probably a dozen emails and a few calls, and I told folks I'd ask today, and I'm also, concerned because we do have a lot of activity up there. It's very dry. I know it's very dry because I was up there, and it's just so close to the 6,000. So you're monitoring those areas, and I know our rangers are monitoring. Very diligent about monitoring unattended campfires. Is which indices do you think would need to change for us to really kind of come back and look at this again? Because I really feel uncomfortable not including some of these recreation areas that are just so close to 6,000.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. The specific one that we look at below 6,000 is spread component, and again, it's how quickly the fire is going to spread. And the light fuels, when I'm talking light fuels, it's the grass that'll be the carrier below 6,000, and a little bit of the brush. We don't see as much timber or the 1,000-hour fuels. And also, while there aren't a lot of 1,000-hour fuels below 6,000, we do look at that as a metric because, again, that tells us how easy it is going to be able to catch if we get one that starts growing rapidly, and then how quickly we can mop it up. So that 1,000 hours, because we do have at our weather station, we do have measurement for 1,000-hour fuel moistures, even though there's really no 1,000-hour fuels around there. So we keep an eye on that one, and that one's a little bit higher than 6,000 and above here in the county, but those are getting closer. And the sheriff, I'm sure I'm keeping him informed, and obviously he'll be reaching out to you at that point when he determines that it's hit that metric.
Great. Well, I just, again, I'm very grateful for all of you. I know we have even our Office of Emergency Management helping with the leaf fire, and we have, we're always trying to do mutual aid, and I know there's a lot happening. Always want to be very diligent for our neighbors, and we have a lot of folks still recreating and around, and I just want to register my concern about those areas that are so close to 6,000. And I know you guys are diligently observing that, but I for my own personal concerns about it, but I have heard from a lot of residents and around those areas that live up there year round that, that's their permanent residents that are very, very concerned. So I just wanted to kind of express that for them, but also just hoping that you guys will kind of maybe take a little extra attention to that area. I'm sure Horseshoes as well, but I appreciate you listening. I know you guys care. I know we're trying to be very pragmatic and also make sure we're following kind of the new process. But hopefully, if that starts to change, I'm sure the sheriff will get back to us. But I just really want to express my concerns for the residents and their concerns. And again, thank you all for what you're doing. And I know there's a lot happening right now, and we're all watching the skies, and just hopefully we here in Larimer go forward. And there was also another question. I got calls last night too. There was a resident near Blue Mountain said there was a bunch of vehicles that went up last night. They said there was maybe a little fire up there in that area last night.
Yeah, we had a little bit.
The area I'm talking
little fire
about?
in Lions Fire Protection District.
Okay.
It was by the time we got on scene, it was about 100 foot by 100 foot, and the firefighters were able to knock it down and get a hose line around it. So that one should not be an issue. It took about an hour to get on scene, and that also is an indicator of how easy they are going to be to catch. It was in the understory, so the fuel's underneath the trees, and it didn't grow that quick, and we were able to get on it and put it out real quick. And that's our posture right now, especially with limited resources in the state, is that all the firefighters and the sheriff's office have been told to aggressively attack any fire. They don't need me to say respond to it. If we hear of a smoke, we're sending resources right away and asking for aircraft. Whether they're here or not, we're going to order them and try and get as much as we can on it to knock it out. So, nope, something we're definitely concerned about as well.
Well, that was another reason for many phone calls from my late last night for me. So, and they were concerned about the access, getting the vehicles up there, and so again, I'm just responding to residents' concerns, and I answer phones. And now the public knows I answer phones late at night. So, thank you for that report and diligence, and thank everyone who was so just doing their great job and keeping that to 100 by 100. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief Weitzel, and thank you for sort of explaining the methodology, because I think it's important for people to hear and know that we're doing this as a data-driven, exercise and not just winging it, so to speak, right? And I mean, when we saw conditions last week, as was alluded to earlier, we reacted and had an emergency meeting on Thursday morning to enact, the restrictions over 6,000 feet. And we all met as a, group online to be able to do that. I think that there were several members of the public. Media picked it up really quickly. So it was wanted to put it into effect before the weekend where people are camping and things like that. So I just really appreciate that data-driven approach to how we're doing this, and thank you for explaining sort of all the metrics and indices that we're considering as we make these decisions. Can you remind me what the zones are? So obviously over 6,000 feet, but are there two more zones then?
Yeah, so there's two more zones. So, and it's really hard to see on the small print on the map that I gave you. But when you go to the website, you can see it. But there's below 6,000, which is often referred to as the plains from the National Weather Service and some of our other partners. The middle zone is the foothills zone, and it's 6,000 to 9,000 feet. And then the third line is above 9,000 feet and is what is referred to sometimes as the East Divide. So those are the three zones within Larimer County.
And as you said, they match the red flag kind of zones, so people are familiar with those. So it's, as Commissioner Shattuck McNally was asking for, something in that 5,800 kind of, that's tricky to do with the current. But certainly, it's great to have these zones, because in the past we haven't had them, so we've had to have the restrictions kind of countywide, right?
Yes.
And so it's really nice to be able to target the specific area. So, well, thank you for explaining this. Do you envision at some point we'll have to go into a ban in the areas that we've put restrictions in, or right now it's not looking like that?
I would imagine if we continue to get the hot, dry weather, that a ban will be forthcoming. And with the predictions, it looks like that may happen. The other thing is I leave out of town in less than a week, so that's always an indicator too that things are going to get worse. So that may happen. I don't want to predict anything while I'm out of town, but Keaton will be here to help out as much as possible. But that probably will happen, I would imagine, just to make things a little bit more difficult for everybody else.
There is that anecdotal evidence that we also sometimes, unfortunately, that does happen. And then thank you for putting the website where people can check things out. Have you received a lot of calls from residents? Are they kind of comfortable with the new scenario, with the new zones? Are they comfortable with understanding sort of what is allowed and what isn't allowed, or are you still getting numerous phone calls on that?
The phone calls that I typically get have been reduced. I don't know if they're calling somebody else. There is an email on that Aegis website, and that email goes to me and one of my other folks that I work with, and we have not received any emails at this point. So I'm hoping the new website has helped people understand the restrictions a little bit better. I do owe you all a work session at some point to walk you through the new website. I have not had time to do that yet, but that is coming as well. But I do believe the website is making a big difference for people that are seeking information out.
Yeah, and I think that, in reading through the Colorado and then the Loveland Reporter Herald articles, I thought they were very thorough with kind of what would be allowed, and I thought that they did a really good job too as well. So appreciate our partners in the media really getting on the story early and getting good information out there too. So that was great. And
No, that
then
was
of
super
course
helpful.
Tom and the folks in our public relations office who shared that information, and your office as well, your information officer. So
No, we have
great
a
work.
great collaboration here at the county, and then we have a lot of great partners throughout Larimer County with the public and partners that we work with, the fire departments and everybody. The Forest Service, their restrictions should align with ours, so it should make it a little bit easier for the public as well.
Great. All right. Any further questions? Commissioner Kafalis, please go ahead.
I'll be quick. Thank you. I just want to make a couple of quick comments, and then I do have one question. And my comments are, first of all, a lot of appreciation and gratitude for you and your team, and for Captain Keaton and other folks and the sheriff. Please express our appreciation to the sheriff, and grateful that you use a science-based approach, to determining the fire conditions and the risks and dangers. And at the same time, we are receptive to people's levels of anxiety and what the perception is, especially folks up in the mountains. We all receive lots of emails and phone calls. So thank you for that. I think that to reinforce the point that the chair made, we do have rapid response capabilities, so that if a situation arises where those indices have changed dramatically, we can all come together for an emergency meeting and take the appropriate course of action, as we did last Thursday, when we implemented the current fire restrictions. My third comment, and then my question, and thank you, Justin or Chief, and that is, I think it's important to inform people that this Saturday, August 15th, there will be the 5-year commemoration of the Cameron Peak East Troublesome fires, up the Poudre Canyon, I believe it's at Poudre Canyon Station number 2.
Yes.
So that is this Saturday. It'll be a very good, important event. I believe it's from 1 to 3, and I'm sure the public, of course, is invited. So I wanted to mention that. And then finally, my question, and that is, whenever you do these kinds of things, there's always the matter of how do you enforce things. So what are we doing differently to try to enforce or keep an eye out regarding the fire restrictions, and if there are open fires where there shouldn't be?
Yeah, that's a great question, and obviously one of those things that we struggle with from time to time because zoned restrictions are new. The guidance that we've offered to our law enforcement folks is to focus on education at this point, to really try and educate the public on the differences. Obviously, if we have repeated offenses, or we have to go back even after we told somebody to put a fire out, then we may go to enforcement. But right now, the big push is to do education, because we realize that not everybody knows that we went to zone fire restrictions or what exactly that means. So right now we're doing a huge education push on that. So it's something we're focusing on. And I'm in the process of trying to create business cards with QR codes that take them to the website so that they can get that information, and just really trying to get that information out to the public at places like these, the event this Saturday. Even though it's for a commemoration, it's good to hand out those cards at those kind of events, because people do have an interest in wildfire. So something, just one of those places that we can take advantage of educating everybody on. So we'll continue to do that as well. But big push for education at this point.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Justin.
Madam Chair. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Can you, since I'm going up to Estes for some meetings and other things, is there a way I can get some of those cards for me personally, be able to hand out, and I can also go up and visit with these folks in Kerr Lake and hand out some cards and education and show them the website. And I'm going to send them the website. But if you have that or available, would love to have some of those for my handy dandy briefcase to hand out. So just to help educate folks, because I agree with you, education is really important. And again, thank you, Justin. I know you've been doing this for a long time, and you breathe and dream about all these things, unfortunately. But I'm really grateful for the work that you do, and I appreciate that we've gone to these zone restrictions and things, and we didn't have this before, as Commissioner Stevens had said. I'm really grateful for that, and that we're progressing and trying to be even more targeted or responsive, and want to just express my gratitude. However, I have to say, you're not allowed to leave during fire season on vacation. I thought that was in your contract. No, I'm kidding. No, but we all have to have time off, and now fire season's year round, so there's really no good time for anyone, and we all need a break. So I'm glad you're doing a work-life balance, but I hope you're headed somewhere where there's no smoke, so you can. Oh, that's too bad. Hope you can relax and enjoy your family, but I do wish you well, and I thank you for presenting today. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And then just to follow up, I will bring some cards to the commissioner's office just so that anybody that wants them can receive them, and that be another place that we could put them out, because I know you have a lot of folks coming through where your office is, and so they could grab one if they so want one. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Chief. Any other questions before we let the chief go? No, thank you. Thanks for the update. We appreciate the continued work, and keep us posted if anything changes.
all right, thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is a resolution for a 0.15% countywide transportation sales and use tax, referring a ballot issue and calling an election. And as I was speaking, here's our Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources Director, Leslie Ellis, to kick this item off. So welcome, Leslie. And I know there's others in the audience who are both interested in the item and have been working on this item for a long time, and so we're grateful to have all the expertise in the room, and looking forward to the presentation.
Okay, let's see if we can. Okay, there we go. So good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for considering this item. We've been in discussion about transportation funding for quite a long time, and we're back, and this is a continuation of many of the community conversations that we've had. We're here to present the resolution to put a 15.15% sales and use tax on the ballot in November. This would be the opportunity for voters to make the decision about whether to support that sales and use tax. And if you decide to do that, that would be the option for voters. I want to start with thank you to all the folks who've contributed. Just in the interest of time, I won't go through all the names, but we've had many in our staff teams, consultant team, and then also our partners. Thank you to Ann and Bill who are here today, and others. I received other emails of support and encouragement over the weekend too, but we've done quite a bit of conversation and stakeholder outreach with many of the organizations that you see here on the list, and we anticipate probably further conversations that might be had between our partners and you all as we go forward. So again, this proposed sales tax would cost 15 cents on a $100 purchase, and we anticipate it would generate about $15 million a year on average. It does exclude certain essential purchases, such as groceries and prescription drugs and others that are itemized in the resolution. And this would give a predictable and reliable source of funding for us locally to handle many of the transportation needs that we have that are really essential for safety and connection within our region and for our communities. We do anticipate that without the funding source, without this local funding source, we would be looking at some cuts in those essential transportation projects, many of which were identified in our transportation plan. So this is really important for our transportation priorities around safety, resiliency, preparing for disasters, as we heard in the topic before this, recovering from those kinds of weather events, and really ensuring efficient mobility and addressing our congestion in the region as we've seen that increase because of all of the growth that we've seen in the region. We have a large system in our unincorporated area that's noted here on the slide, and the access is really important for safety and well-being. Again, we also have many bridges that are old. They're not unsafe at this point, but they could age into a place where they're unsafe, but they certainly don't meet our current needs and ultimately safety requirements. And as you heard earlier too, having local funding gives us an opportunity to work with our partners locally, with our cities and municipalities, and also leverage as much as we can the funding that we can get from other sources at the state and federal level. The recently adopted Safety Action Plan and Transportation Plans are an important guide and backdrop for how this funding would be spent. And that plan itemizes and focuses on it. Just to remind everybody, our focus is on the unincorporated system and the unincorporated part of our county and the mainline county roads that connect between communities, but not in the incorporated areas. And the goals and the vision of that plan very much emphasize funding as a critical component of being able to implement the plan. And so you can see in the vision language, partly it's to secure long-term funding, and then among the number of goals as part of the plan, funding is also an important goal. I know you all are aware, but for the purpose of others who may be interested, we do foresee quite a widening gap and shortfall. There's about $650 million worth of projects that are identified in that plan that without this source of funding, we would see that gap continue to widen over the years. And the plan identifies over 500 projects that are safety and roadway focused. It would enable us to improve these roads that have congestion problems, but it also helps us accomplish safety for pedestrians, for bikes at key intersections, and those sorts of things, and really enhance the safety and mobility of the entire transportation system for all travelers. And you can see certain projects and locations are identified here, but there are projects that are really virtually all over the county, from south to north and from east to west, surrounding all the communities. You're well aware we've done quite a bit of community outreach and engagement this year to understand what the priorities of our community is. And this was done in parallel with the work done on the transportation plan. That was an outreach effort and a lot of engagement for over a year as well. But specifically around this funding question, we had two surveys this year, one in March and one in July. And we've shared with commissioners and had some discussions on both of those. But most recently in July, we asked people would they still be supportive of moving forward with this type of effort. And we heard that there was support. And we also heard that the priorities in their minds are really readiness for emergency situations such as fires and floods. 95% of the people thought that was very or somewhat important. Reduce traffic congestion, again, 92% of people. Improve safety for all users, 85% of people. So those themes keep coming up every time we ask people what's important to you. And also we saw a relatively high level of confidence in how the county's managed its resources around this topic and ability to continue to move forward. We also tested the ballot language and found that there would be support for that, and it gave us the opportunity to improve some of the points and clarity in the ballot language too, and I'll get into that just in a moment. So this web page, investinlarimer.co, exists out there as a source of information, will continue to exist should you choose to move forward with the ballot. But that shows all the projects. It has some questions and answers. It has other kind of fact sheets as well as the survey results. So now I'll go into the content of the resolution. This is the title of the resolution. It's fairly lengthy, but really emphasizing the 0.15% countywide sales and use tax, and then referring the ballot issue for this transportation tax and calling for an election. And then the resolution contents itself goes into many different sections, but in general, a couple of things I wanted to highlight, and certainly can answer any detailed questions you have. But there's a whole section, many sections that emphasize the applicability and the specific exemptions that we talked about, prescription drugs and whatnot. It itemizes the effective date. So if this were put on the ballot and passed, it would become effective January 1st of 2026, and then it would carry on for 15 years and sunset after 15 years. And then the ballot title is in there, which I'll go to in just a moment. It does reference the plan, and it has an exhibit that references all the specific figures and tables in the plan as far as the projects that the tax could cover. And then there's also a section about transparency and community input and the county's commitment to making sure that once a year we're including the public and providing information about how that funding would be spent and what projects would be prioritized for it. And then some of the other legal components of the ballot, of the resolution and ballot language. So this is the proposed ballot language. We reviewed this with you a week ago, and what was added after the most recent poll and input from the public was the new language around the exemptions there, just to make that very clear for people. And some of this language, as we discussed before, is a little wonky, but it comes from the state language, as you'll see in other components of the resolution too. There are just some things that we're required to include, basically, or recommended to include by the state. But again, emphasis on safety, mobility, and focusing on our transportation system, really for all travelers. And then the required language, we do have to include our highest estimate of what we might collect in the first year annually, and working with our sales tax office, that figure of 17.4 million is the number there, but we do anticipate this would yield more like an average of $15 million a year. We do have some minor edits in the resolution and the version that we would give you to sign today. Thank you, Commissioner Kavalis, for giving us, catching a few typos and giving us some recommendations to improve a few things in the language. As much as we stare at these and use spell check and everything, that seems like something always slips through. So we would recommend that the version that you sign today include these 4 corrections. And they're all very, mostly minor, but help improve either the grammar, that first recital really just lines up the verb usage a bit better than what was in there previously. We moved the order of some of the communities and put unincorporated Larimer County first in that 5th recital, and then there was a typo that we fixed, and then we changed another incorrect term in one of the sections on page 7. So those would be very minor things that we would include and advance in this version as we move it forward. And then I do want to just point out too that the Exhibit A references the transportation plan and all of the figures and tables, and reference to other projects in LaPorte area and the transit strategy solutions that could become part of this as we move forward. And so, for instance, there are all of these maps and plans that are part of that. So the roadway plan, the bicycle and pedestrian plan, and whatnot. And so that brings me to the proposed motion, which we hope you would consider supporting, and can answer any other questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ellis. Any questions for Director? Commissioner Kavalis?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks, everyone. It's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
One question that comes to mind is one of the statements that has been made in support of referring this to the voters, and ultimately the voters will decide if that's what we do today, is that the ability of having these additional local dollars to leverage other kinds of dollars. I don't know if you got into that much. Could you speak to that a little bit? How could having local dollars allow us to potentially access other types of state or federal or
Yeah, thank you for that question. So historically, when we've gone off after state and federal grants, there's usually a matching requirement, 20%. I mean, the amount may depend on the source of the grant and the type of grant it is. Without and sometimes our projects are quite large and maybe in the multi-million-dollar range, so that can be a significant matching amount, but it does enable us to leverage maybe 80% of the cost of a project or a significant amount. So to the extent that we have local funding, that gives us the ability to go after those and successfully contribute to those. We also anticipate that this money would let us work more closely with our local partners too, who will oftentimes approach us and say, can you help us on a project that's maybe in a growth management area at the edge of our community? And at this point, we typically have to say, no, we don't have funding to do that. But there are projects that are, in the unincorporated area that might, maybe be annexed or maybe not annexed, but are in, at the doorstep of communities around Larimer County. And so this fund would also help us work with our partners more closely on those projects.
may I ask a couple more? Thanks. Thank you. Just to kind of follow up on your response, and I appreciate that response. It's very helpful. Can you give us an example of a project that's pending or perhaps about to be underway that is an example of the county partnering with a local jurisdiction like the city of Fort Collins
Yeah.
that will help address, for example, traffic congestion?
Yeah, well, I think the example we lean on quite a bit is Taft Hill Road extension. That's been a project that's been in the works for many years and has grown in cost over time. We have had some grant funding. We've worked back and forth with the city of Fort Collins to, move that project along, purchase right of way, do the various components of the project. I think another example, and I don't mean to pick all of them in the Fort Collins area, but Country Club Road north of Fort Collins is one that's, we've also gone after a lot of grants. But certainly, we could point to examples all around the community, outside of, Loveland, Berthoud, Wellington, Johnstown, other communities as well.
Great. Just one more for now, then if time allows, I have a couple more for later. Let other folks have it. Bite at the apple, as they say. And that is, there's a reference to Exhibit E that has all the details of the Larimer County Transportation Master Plan, Larimer on the Move, etc. Where does one find that?
Yeah, good question. So that it can be found in a few different locations. So if you go to our engineering webpage, it's there. It's also in the investinlarimer.co webpage as a link, and it's at Larimer on the Move as well. Am I missing anything? Looking back at Eric, who was the project manager for that. Yeah.
Thank you kindly. I'll stop there, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Leslie, and thank you, team. A lot of folks I'm glad you listed all those folks. This has been a long process, but we certainly wanted to engage with our community and with our partners and stakeholders. Again, thank you to the local chambers for being here. I really appreciated kind of that going back and discussing with our planning commission and other groups to get that feedback and make sure the plan and the safety plan, everything was where it should be. And then the kind of the pulling and the outreach and understanding, what's important to folks. I'm not surprised public safety, especially for emergency evacuations and access is so important. And right now is prime example with Meeker and some of those folks having evacuated. It's really important. And I think about that phone call I had last night with the residents concerned about, access and getting in and out. So I think it's something that, we need to understand as the county has grown and more folks are living in unincorporated Larimer County like I do. I live outside of city limits, and so traveling back and forth to even the county building on Taft Hill Road or and to recreation areas, I definitely see the congestion and the need for this. And there already have been lots of safety improvements and widening of lanes that the Road and Bridge and our engineering department have just exemplarily implemented and put in place. And I can now run and not run in the culvert as I'm trying to run and avoid traffic. So I appreciate that, though I haven't run lately with um, my eventful summer. But I wanted to, again, just express my gratitude for us to really be thoughtful about this and understand the needs and trying to educate the public. I appreciate you in the resolution, even in the ballot language, we talk about that it won't be on these items that won't be taxed. And I think that's important for folks to understand because I have gotten that question a lot lately. So I appreciate that tweak and expanding that and some of those changes that were met from some of our concerns. And I'm thankful for that education piece, so folks understand where their tax money is going and why this is so important. There's a lot of reasons why this is important as listed, and but I think what I want to think about right now is, I'm a local gal. Love local government. It's why I wanted this job, why I love this job. I talk to people in the grocery stores, on the hiking trails, all kinds of areas. And really local government is kind of the closest to the people and best equipped, I feel, to identify and address the immediate needs of its community members. And so we know what roads need help. And I really like that map and identifying those projects so people can see how this would impact their daily lives and their neighborhood. And so it's not for this group or that group, it's for everyone. And it's for a lot of important reasons. And really, as us as local leaders and local elected officials, working with our partners in nonprofits and organizations, along with municipalities, we really are tasked with ensuring that for the well-being of our residents and our visitors. Because Rocky Mountain National Park has 4.5 million visitors that sometimes drive by my house. At least half of them, I think, because or I pass them, I'm up there with them. And also, we have some of the most visited reservoirs in the state, well beloved by all. And so we're charged with ensuring the well-being and safety of our residents and our visitors. And we really have to be using all the tools, including taxes and local sales taxes, to make sure that we have those resources for these essential services like transportation and public safety. And I think that is one of our responsibilities. And since we have seen at a federal and state level some of this funding and challenges, and not having sometimes that money to go for some of these grants that are very complex and complicated, it is really the time, I think, to address the needs for these transportation. As I'm not sure if you shared that really only 15 cents a month goes towards road and bridge projects for off your property tax from the county. And so it's really right now it's not enough for the 7 million to the year that we collect for that can go towards road and bridge and our engineering needs. It's not enough to meet what is there and what we know is needed for the safety action plan. So I want to thank you, Leslie. You have led this endeavor with such grace and perseverance, and really just this eloquent way of listening to folks and responding back and helping us educate people along the way and engaging with our partners. I want to thank you a lot for all the extra time you came in with me to birth it and others and how we had these conversations. And it's really important that we see folks who are really trying to do this to help folks and trying to be good stewards of taxpayer money. And I do feel this plan and this ask in this resolution is really being good stewards. And we wouldn't ask if we didn't really need to go with, for these funds. So thank you. And I will be certainly, I don't have any questions because we've talked about this a lot, but I will be leaning towards supporting this, putting this on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Carvalho, some more questions?
Yes, I have a couple, if I may. Don't want our Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources Director to get off too easy. So I think there was a reference to this, but all the material that we've read over the last couple of years, I think there was the number 14%. In other words, current funding allows us to address perhaps 14% of the project's infrastructure that have been identified over the next 25 years. Could you expand on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So we currently have approximately $7 million a year going forward for capital transportation projects. So to make improvements to the system or to do major repairs or anything like that. So our funds currently, and you mentioned the property tax, we don't have a dedicated source other than our road and bridge mill levy, which yields about 75 cents a month on an average property that's worth $600,000 residential property. And so that varies a bit, from property to property, but that's the average. And so most of our funds go to provide for operation and maintenance of our road system, our road and bridge, through the road and bridge mill levy. And so that chart I showed with the widening gap, that $7 million does pay for about 14 or 15% of our overall need over time. And the transportation plan, when you tally up the priority projects that we have, we anticipate then a widening gap that's about $650 million that without this local funding source we would not be able to pay for. So that's the 14% is basically the 7 million contributing to what we need ultimately. Does that help?
Yes, of course it does. I just have two questions, and then I'd like to offer my bit of deliberation. So we've also seen that the transportation infrastructure in the unincorporated parts of the county, and that's where the focus is, with collaboration with our partner jurisdictions. There was a reference to, for example, Horsetooth Reservoir and Carter Lake, I believe, are two of the bodies of water that are used most or visited most throughout the state of Colorado in terms of recreation. So there's a lot of transportation going to recreation sites. And then the matter of commuting. I think one number I've seen, 70% of folks commute from their homes. I think if you live up in Wellington, it's more like 94%. Can you speak to those two issues, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I may have to lean on others for the actual statistics around this, but I think you're correct that it's 70% of the people who commute and live and work in the county are traveling from one community to another. And of course, a lot of people even travel outside of our county to live or work within our county. Is 70% the right number? Close. Yeah, it's a high number. And then we've also seen similarly that a majority of the people who are traveling on county roads up around Horsetooth and up around Carter Lake and in these recreational parts of the county, they reside in the towns and the cities of the county. So they're leaving their home and driving up there, or maybe riding their bike up there, and expecting that the road system in the transportation system is going to be safe and not congested and that sort of thing. So it is very important for people who are commuting between communities and also who are trying to get out there to recreate and enjoy the outdoors that we have. That's part of our quality of life here.
Last question, and then a couple of quick comments. Thank you, by the way.
Welcome.
So if we refer this morning to the ballot and the voters approve it on November 4th, 2025 by at least a simple majority, the sales tax will start to be collected January 1st, 2026. How will this unfold? In other words, money starts coming in. It's a dedicated source of revenue. It's only to be used for transportation. 6 months into 2026, we've got enough money in the bank. How do we decide, based on the transportation master plan, how do we prioritize these projects, and what level of input will the community have? Because we refer to the transportation master plan Larimer on the Move as a quote living document that can adjust over time over the next we update it every periodically. So how's this going to work 6 months into 2026 if we send it, which I support, and the money starts getting collected?
Yep. Also a very good question. I keep expecting Mark or somebody to come tap me on the shoulder, and so feel free to come up. But so we have a capital improvement plan that looks out 5 years for more immediate projects, and what shows up in the transportation plan that is a longer term plan. And we even update our transportation plan from time to time because, of course, we always have new needs and things that come up and change circumstances. But our capital improvement plan every year is something that we look at carefully and have to make difficult decisions about which projects are ready, which projects aren't quite ready, which ones need to move into design phase. And we've had to, in many cases, pull things off the list because we don't have the funding. So we have projects that are kind of in that next stage of readiness that could start to move up in that plan fairly immediately. The plan would then also be to kind of broaden that list, and as we built into the resolution, the idea of making sure that the public is, informed and aware of which projects are on the list, which things are, ready, and what projects we've spent money on as we move through this cycle year after year. So we would have to ramp up fairly quickly. If we find out on the morning of November 5th that this is passed, we'll move into that mode fairly quickly of adding projects and making sure we have the staff and the consultants and others moving into design mode and so on with the various projects. Do you all want to add anything else in terms of specifics, or did I mostly get that right? Okay.
Once again, Leslie, that's helpful. Thank you, colleagues. My closing comments, I'll try to be quick here. Let's see. So as I alluded to a moment ago, I will support referring this to the ballot. Let's see. Ultimately, the voters will decide, and we have a responsibility, a shared responsibility to make sure that folks are educated, the voters, and can make informed decisions. And should they vote to approve this, then we'll have resources that will enhance local control. We always talk about local control. We'll be perhaps a bit more in control of our destiny as we see the population grow, more impacts on our transportation infrastructure. We want to ensure that we can co-create perhaps a multimodal transportation that takes into consideration all manner of options to get folks from point A to B, and with a nod to our chamber's friends, commerce from A to B. So all of that is really, really important. A reminder that two final points, that this is dedicated to transportation. All of the county sales tax are dedicated for a specific purpose, and this 0.15%, 15 cents on a $100 purchase, excluding groceries and other important things that are outlined in the resolution, would go for going beyond fixing the potholes and chip seal and overlays and all of that. We can actually work on the bridges. We can make sure that pedestrians are safer at places like LaPorte. We can work on figuring out a way to get people from Wellington to Fort Collins without having to drive. Those are some of the potential benefits if the voters decide to approve this. Finally, this has been a real thoughtful process. I mean, we do our best to be very thoughtful and deliberative. It's been over the last couple of years. We've done our best to create opportunities for folks to engage, to provide input through, conversations, open houses, surveys, and all the rest. And certainly appreciate the support from a good chunk of the business community, because I think many people get it, and maybe not everyone, or people can have different opinions, of course, that in terms of our regional economic development, it's important that transportation is one of the biggest things. And we know that if you're going to engage in the workforce, the three main barriers, what are they? The cost of transportation, If you can't afford a house in Fort Collins, you go to Severance. Then you got to drive on the roads, and you're away from your kids more. Childcare is an issue, and of course, the cost of housing. I've said my piece. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. The one question I have is when we talk about, our having a deficit of, I think, what was the number, $650 million for projects, or we have, that's our shortfall. That number's big and sort of unwieldy. Can you talk about maybe a specific project that we've identified and how much that costs? Because I think that people are somewhat unaware of like how much some of these projects cost. For example, like I work a lot on regional transportation, and I know that 6 miles on I-25 to expand the lanes and expand the bridges was about $330 million just for a 6 mile stretch. So just if you could just throw out, so people get sort of an idea of what these projects cost and why we need these dollars.
So project cost, Mark Peterson, County Engineer. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good morning, Commissioners. Project cost is highly variable depending on whether it's an urban or rural setting. Leslie talked about Taft Hill Road as an example. That's a half mile of 4-lane urban arterial, and that half mile is going to end up costing about $12 million. And that's been part of the challenge with finding the funding for that project. We've, chased grants, had grants, and then the grant money has gone away, and, we've had to struggle to get to the point where we can fund that project. Another project example where there's a large amount of need is the Owl Canyon corridor. And so we've got remaining to make improvements to the portion from County Road 9 to County Road 15, and an improvement to the intersection there at County Road 15 and County Road 70. And those projects, the cost for those improvements are going to exceed $20 million. So we've got high cost projects. If we go to do a roundabout or do the Country Club road corridor, and I'm picking projects that are all kind of in the north part of the county, but Country Club road corridor is 12 to potentially $15 million. Our costs keep escalating, and construction costs tend to exceed inflation, normal inflation costs, unfortunately, as well. So it's pretty costly. A bridge, $1 to $5 million. The Pingree Park Bridge is going to be probably $10 million plus to replace.
Thank you. I just think that gives people sort of an idea of what kind of costs we're talking about. And when you only have $7 million and you have projects that are $12 million plus $20 million, there's almost no way to complete those projects without having some direct funding for those projects. So thank you. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. I'll just make a few comments because I don't have any other questions. We've talked about this for the past several months and even beyond that before when we tried this tax before. People might know I've been, working in regional transportation for 6 years. It's something that I never thought I would get into, and now I am. And now I spend, probably 12 to 15 hours a month working on transportation issues, often with Eric Tracy, who's in the audience, as my staff companion in those meetings, to provide the expertise that I need to make decisions. I will just say that, like, when we were talking about my schedule for the coming week, one of the items was probably people didn't even pay attention to, which was this MMOF. Let's see, what we called it. MMOF reconciliation. So this is just a brief illustration of what we're dealing with in the transportation world. So people may know that the state budget is in trouble. They cut $200 million from the state budget last year. Some of those dollars were these MMOF dollars, or multimodal option fund dollars, of which we had some dollars for the aforementioned Taft Hill project, right? Around, I think, roughly around $500,000 towards that. Those dollars went away. The state was like, no, we're not going to allocate those dollars. And other communities had the same thing happen to them, right? That those dollars, Estes Park had some dollars from the Upper Front Range that went away. We had dollars from the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization that went away. Those dollars just went away. They were dollars that were allocated to us. We thought we could spend those out for projects, and they disappeared. I don't think that's very common, but it does, things like that happen. And without having a dedicated funding source, these projects grind to a halt. And these are really important projects for commuting, for safety, that without help from those other entities, we can't do those projects. This enables us to make projects like that keep going forward. And so as we looked at, maybe dwindling resources at the federal and state level, or very competitive grant opportunities at both, we really need these dollars to leverage any dollars that will be available in the coming years. And so, I think about what this means for our community, because I understand how people feel about taxes, and I'm glad we've had the conversations about how little of your property tax dollars actually go to these construction projects. But I mean, what are we investing in here? Yes, we're investing in roads and bridges, and yes, it's important to be safe, but we're investing in people. We're investing in our community, and we're investing in the idea that we need to be connected as a community, right? I mean, this is, we have as one of our items in our strategic plan is belonging. Belonging is being part of a community. If you can't safely get to events and your church and your work and and the mountains and your recreational opportunities, we aren't connected as a community. And so roads and bridges mean more than just roads and bridges. They are the way that we connect as a community. They're ways that we get together and do the things that we love and see the people that we love and do the jobs that bring in income for our families. So I think that, what we're talking about here is much more than roads and bridges, although, we got to fix those. But, we really, how do we keep the people in our community safe? And we can't do that without these dollars. And so, I know that the public can be wary of taxes. 15 cents on $100 seems a small price to pay for having these really important connectors in our community to be in place. So I hope that people will support this. I certainly do support this. I see the need. I think we will use these dollars wisely. And like I said, whatever dollars are there to leverage, we will bring those dollars into our community. We have staff that works really hard to do that. This is a group of people that's really committed to using these resources wisely. And so I trust our staff immensely, and we will do good work with these dollars. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for your work. And thanks. This has been sort of a labor of love. Everybody's done a ton of work on this year. So thank you very much. And I'll leave some closing remarks to our county manager, Lorinda Volker.
As I was driving in today, Commissioners, I was trying to navigate the construction going on inside the city of Fort Collins as I was trying to get to this building. And I wonder if that creates some confusion, because each local government does fund its own transportation. So when you run into those roadblocks and you have to make that turn in Fort Collins or in Loveland or in another community, those are not the roads we're talking about. Those are different roads that cities are paying for. We are the connectors. We are the ones that want to partner with those municipalities and connect people in various ways to our beautiful open lands, our reservoirs, and all of those things. So I guess I would just remind everyone that we all fund these projects individually and differently, and when we partner, we certainly can work together, but these are our responsibility as a county government to take care of these county roads and make sure the capacity meets the demand. And I think that's the only thing I would add that maybe hasn't been said yet is you may run into roadblocks, but those are not the ones that we're talking about, the roads that we're worried about right now.
Literal roadblocks, yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioners? All right. Anything else from you, Leslie, or the team?
Well, I can put this back up. I think you need to make a motion, and then
We
I have
do.
the updated, slightly revised version for signatures available today as well.
Sure. And do we need to add to the motion that this would include the corrections, or that they have been included in the current resolution?
No.
We're good
Okay.
with the motion as it stands.
We're good.
Okay. Commissioner Shattuck McNally. let you do the honors.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly. Madam Chair and colleagues, I move the Board of County Commissioners to approve the resolution describing a proposal for a 0.15% countywide transportation sales and use tax to fund road and bridge and other transportation infrastructure improvements focused on safety, congestion, maintenance, and mobility, referring a ballot issue to the 2025 coordinated election ballot for the approval of such a proposal and calling an election.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Commissioner Kavalis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure that as we appreciate everyone, that we give a nod or a bit of a shout out to our county attorney and his team who is present. And he's very meticulous about ensuring that the language is statutorily is by the law. And so I think it's important to give our county attorney, Bill, a shout out.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion beyond that? All right, there's a motion on the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 3-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So we will move on to our county manager update.
Thank you, Commissioners. I had the pleasure last week of being away to celebrate my mother-in-law's 85th birthday. It was quite an event. Family came from around the world to help her celebrate this milestone. And I just want to give a special thanks to Leslie Ellis, who stood in as acting county manager last week. I really appreciate that. As we talked about with Chief Weitzel, it seems something always happens while you're away, and Leslie handled it beautifully. And so thank you, Leslie, for managing everything that came up, and I'm anxious to hear how the fair activities went while I was away.
Thank you, Lorinda. Well, we're glad you had the time away. And yeah, Leslie was a great resource to us. And we had a lot of calls before so I appreciate all the calls and the work she did to make the emergency meeting happen on Thursday. It went well. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to Commissioner activity reports. Commissioner Kavalis, I'll let you get started.
I think in the interest of time, and I have some preparation to do for this afternoon, some further preparation, I will pass.
Thank you. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
I understand I'll be brief, Commissioner, but I share. I want to thank Department of Natural Resources for inviting us to their all-staff barbecue. It was a lot of fun, and it was well attended. And thank you, Leslie. She was everywhere. She was over at the Fern Rodeo, the pancake breakfast, the barbecue, and answering all of our phone calls. And just really well done. Appreciate your diligence and hanging in there last week. It was an eventful week. And I just wanted to say we have some amazing staff in DNR, and just seeing the camaraderie and partnership just really warms my heart. Also, I attended the Rodeo Board luncheon. I'm the Rodeo Board liaison. I'm so proud of that Rodeo Board, and Connor McGrath, our director of the ranch, and all the staff that put in so much time for the rodeo. We moved the rodeo luncheon from its historic multiple, I think it's 40 years or more that the luncheon was at Sylvandale Guest Ranch and hosted by Sylvandale, but it was moved for logistical reasons to try to get folks that are there at the rodeo to come, and it was well attended. And I want to thank why am I drawing a blank? The matron and wonderful person from Sylvandale, she came, and our rodeo board honored her with a wonderful crafted, I think it was a cow hide or horse hide with her Sylvandale brand, and it was great to that she came, and we had a chance to talk with some of the world champion bull riders and our very world, I guess it's a world honor of the rodeo act. That was so nice to get to talk to him and thank him for coming. And then we had our last rodeo that night. We were just about 20 seats from having a third night of sellout after 2 nights of sellout. We were so close. Very proud of that. work and was a lot of fun. I want to thank Congressman Neguse for coming to the carnival and walking around the parade with his family and coming to the rodeo and experiencing that. He was very impressed and had a great time and asked a lot of questions, and a lot of folks came up and were thanking him and giving some great questions. So I want to thank him for attending and being our guest, and it was really a treat to honor him and welcome him to our award-winning rodeo. The next day we had uh, our livestock sale and some of that work. And I also had new employee orientation. Lots of fun, big crowd. I love welcoming new staff members and just joining our team. And I want to just thank out to all the HR staff for organizing that and making it fun and interactive. And welcome again to all of these new employees. We're really grateful to have you join our team. We had the junior livestock sale. I appreciate all the work that goes into that. A lot of folks there. Like I said, I knew a lot of new 4-H families that was their first time showing, and got to talk to that young man last night and said how'd it go, and it was really exciting to see all those smiling faces and some tears as they said goodbye to their animals. And I got to say one more good hello and gave a good scratch on the back to the Chunk Norris, the steer that I've met, who just warmed my heart, and seeing the youth clawing all over the steer as he's laying down there watching movies in the barn with him. Just such a treat for me to meet that family and to kind of bond with that steer. I love to take horse selfies, but now I have started with my steer selfies. So if you want to hear and see about Chunk Norris, come see me. He's quite the treasure and quite the delight to add to my fair and rodeo activities. We attended the Hartside Hill grand opening. I'm very proud of our partnerships there. Larimer County received an award. I think, Madam Chair, you have that, maybe what we can share, that we got recognized for our contributions and partnership with the Hartside Hill apartment grand opening, and it was a really great ceremony. It was very well attended, and we had folks from CHAFA and housing catalysts and state representatives, a lot of folks there to give speeches. Steve Cunham, I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time thinking Kemp, and we did a great job talking about the importance of this and the partnerships. It was Sister Mary Alice's 94th birthday, but it was also Steve's birthday just a few days later. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to sing happy birthday to him too. So it was really a special time, and very excited to get to celebrate that. And thank you for the recognition. We're very proud to be part of that project. And then Commissioner Stevens and I attended the CCAT summer retreat online. Lots of great conversations. We met with the Speaker of the House and some members of the Joint Budget Committee, Senator Bridges, State Senator Bridges, and also State Senator Roberts came and talked, and we had a lot of really important conversations about legislation, and I appreciate the work and talking about legislation for next year. But it was great to meet with some leaders from the General Assembly to really emphasize county's concerns and needs, and I really appreciate their willingness to be there in person and listen and provide some perspectives from their viewpoint, and also kind of prepping for this special session that's coming up. And then I just like I said, I was coming back. I took a very short, very brief trip to check on one of my youth who are moving on to graduate school, and got to spend some time in Montrose and looking at wildfires from the air. And so I got to see their new airport, and of course I took that opportunity to talk to folks to find out about how they pay for that, and what's it like, and what's going on in Montrose, and it was really neat to learn about their things, but very disheartening to see all the smoke on the horizon, and the sunset being them being illuminated by the sunset. So I was very disheartened for that. But that's all I have to share, Madam Chair. And again, thanks to everyone involved with the Fair and Rodeo. I know you sitting on the Fair Board and me on the Rodeo Board, and all the work that we do together, and the new Queen and everything. It's just lots of things to celebrate as a very record-breaking year. And again, to our Fair Boards and Rodeo Boards and the ranch staff in Carter McGrath, well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm not sure I have much to add. Just really want to thank CARE Communities for the opening of the Hartside Hill Apartments, the grand opening on Thursday, as was mentioned. This was, took a village to make a village, as I said. 72 units for people that live under 60% of median income. And so, what this means is that people in our community who do hard work but maybe don't get paid a lot have a place to call home. And so, really want to thank the Heart of the Rockies Church for sending out an RFP and saying this excess land that we have, we're gonna make available for affordable housing. And they worked with, Care Communities, L'Arche, and Habitat for Humanity. On Thursday, it was the Hartside Hill apartments that were opened. So, we were excited to be a part of this. $2 million of our American Rescue Plan dollars went towards this. We wanted to have projects that were legacy projects that were meaningful, and this certainly fit the bill. And so, Laura Walker helped us through some of this process of, we did a lot of letters of support to care communities so that they could leverage other dollars. So just a really remarkable project. It's wonderful to see it to come to fruition. It's wonderful that people in our community will have a place to stay, a place to live, a place to call home. And so that was just a very heartwarming, lovely event. And yeah, the added bonus is we got to sing happy birthday to Sister Mary Alice, who is the namesake of the Murphy Center, and who has helped people experiencing homelessness and people struggling with housing for decades. And is estimated that she has helped over 5,000 families get into housing. So a remarkable, just two remarkable things to celebrate on Thursday. I'll just then mention, as we're in the transportation mode, that we met with the North Front Range MPO on Thursday night, and we voted on prioritized projects, and we decided to actually do that by corridor versus doing that, naming specific projects. We like the corridor-based approach. It often involves more of a regional planning and regional work, and that's really what the MPO is all about. So the corridors that we identified that we'd like to work on in the next 10 years are US 34, State Highway 392, I-25, US 287, State Highway 14, and US 85. And so those were identified as being corridors that could use some help, whether they need some multimodal improvements or lane improvements, safety improvements. Those will be the areas we'll be focusing on with the North Front Range MPO. So I think that is it for me. And this week we have no legal matters, so we will adjourn at 10:47. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.